So if you've been waiting for the GTA housing market to finally shift in your favor, well, June may have marked an important turning point. The sales are up, new listings are down, inventory is tightening, but prices are still lower than where they were a year ago. So now the key question is, are we finally seeing the beginning of a market recovery? Or do buyers still have a window of opportunity before competition starts picking up? So today I'll be breaking down the overall GTA market, the Toronto area, PO region, Halton, and I'll discuss what buyers and sellers should be doing right now. Okay, so going over the GTA data report, we saw that there were 6,770 sales for the month of June, which was a 9.4% increase compared to last year. New sales, we saw 17,282 sales, 12.9% decrease. And active listings, 27,329, 13.5% decrease. So a lot less listings compared to before. And average price, we are seeing $1.058 million, which is a 3.9% drop. Average days, we're saying roughly around the same, 29 days, which is still 11.5% increase. So if we break down the 416 905 regions and look at the different property types, we do see that the condo markets have been performing a lot better compared to last year, a 14.3% increase in number of sales. And that's roughly 1.7 thousand combining the 416 905 regions, or if we break that down, 1,124 and 590 in the 905. And this follows by detached market in the 905. We saw a 12.3% increase, which was about 2,464 detached homes in the 905. And the worst performer we saw was actually semi-detached in the 416, where we only had 270 sales, or a 3.2% drop. Now, if we go look at the average price, condos, no surprise, did perform the worst, 10.6% drop and 9.9% drop respectively. And this translates to 563,000 average price point for 905 and 665 for the 416. Following by the semi-detached, where we had a 6.7% drop in the 905, which was roughly around 863,000. Now, how about we break this down by number of bedroom types? Because if you're currently looking and you're trying to figure out how much realistically it's going to cost for that 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom, this is a nice, neat way to look at it. So I'll go through Toronto, Halton Region, and Mississauga, given the time we have. So starting off in Toronto detached market, there are 399 3-bedrooms that sold for $1.14 million. And just below that, we had 204 4-bedrooms that sold for a median price point of $1.9 million. And if you go down the list, you have the 2-bedrooms and 1-bedrooms, which were a lot less in terms of sales, but good to point out that they start becoming below $1 million median price points. So if we look at the sales new listing ratio, we saw 45%, which by definition is within the balanced market, which is between 40 to 60%. And it's interesting to note, but once you get to the 4-bedrooms, we see 29% sales new listing ratio, so a stronger buyer's market over there. And in terms of number of terminations, we saw for the 3-bedrooms, we saw 394. So comparing that to how much that sold, we almost had 1 for 1. For one sale, we had almost 1 termination. Similarly, for the 4-bedrooms, we had a lot more, 323 versus 204 sales. So that's something to note. And in terms of overall sales to listing price, we see the 4-bedrooms taking at least a 2% drop in terms of overall sale price, where the 3-bedroom and 2-bedrooms are tending to sell at the listing price. So out of all the semi-detached that sold, we saw that 3-bedrooms sold for $174, which performed the best at a price point of $1.172 million. And we had a total of 336 new listings, putting our sales to new listing ratio to 52%. So that's being on a good balanced market. And overall selling 6% over the listing price. So the semi-detached in Toronto are performing quite well. Terminations, we're seeing 105 and 34 terminations for the 4 bedrooms. Townhouses, we see 3 bedrooms again selling the highest of 57 units for a price of $1.05 million. So I guess people are willing to save a little bit of extra money at the expense of losing 1 bedroom. So a 3 bedroom gives you that option. And jumping to the 2 bedrooms, you're getting under the $1 million price point. And you can see that the 3 bedrooms are selling just at listing or just slightly above by 1%. But in comparison for the 2 bedrooms, they're selling 11% over asking. And finally, for the condo market, the 2 bedroom is the clear winner, 517 units, followed by the 1 bedrooms where we had 444 1 bedrooms that sold, selling at $670,000 and $475,000 respectively. So lots of good deals over there. Moving on to Mississauga, starting off in the detached market, 4 bedrooms selling in Mississauga, 306, followed by the 3 bedroom, 191. With an average price of 1.17 median, with a median price of 1.17 mil and 950,000 respectively. And the market conditions suggest that we are in a strong buyer's market for the 3 and 4 bedrooms, but also for the 5 and the other bedroom types. And for Mississauga Detached, we're seeing a good price discount for at least from 3 to 4%. And of course, we're seeing a lot of terminations as well for the 3 and 2 bedrooms. For the semi-detached in Mississauga, the clear winner is the 3 bedroom where we had 109 bedrooms, followed by 55 4 bedrooms. And median sale price of $820K, $880 respectively. And overall in the market, we're seeing a good balance, 44 and 52% respectively, and selling just at listing price. Townhouses, we saw 3 bedrooms, 70 3 bedrooms being sold for $762,000, followed by the 4 bedrooms selling at $877,000. And these are strong buyer market conditions, 36 and 30%. And interestingly, the 4 bedrooms are selling 6% higher for the townhouses. So townhouses are the next affordable option compared to a semi-detached or detached. And finally, the condo market, we see 2 bedrooms selling at least twice as much as the 1 bedrooms, no surprise. And they're selling for $508,000 and $417,000 respectively. Strong buyer conditions, of course, even stronger for the 1 bedrooms. And they're all taking at least a 3 to 4% price reduction compared to the list price. Now let's take a look at Halton. Let's see what's going on there. For the Halton Detached, the 4 bedrooms are the most popular, 210 units being sold, followed by 178 for the 3 bedrooms at a median price of 1.5 mil and $1.1 million respectively, and even stronger balance for the 3 bedrooms, 43% and 48% respectively, selling at a 3% discount. So great opportunity for those who want to get into the detached market with a good discount. And for semis, we had 27 3 bedrooms and we had 8 4 bedroom units that sold, and $885,000 and $940,000 respectively. We have a strong balance in the 3 bedroom market, 54%, whereas 4 bedroom had a buyer's market, 36. And you can clearly see here the price reduction of 4% for the stronger buyer's market, and that correlates to that. Where we had the balance, we had roughly right at or just slightly below the listing price. And for townhouses, we saw 73 3 bedrooms being sold and 15 4 bedrooms being sold at $860,000 and $990,000 respectively. And we had a good 42% sales to list and 29% sales to list for the 4 bedrooms. A very strong buyer's market there. Price reductions very close to the listing price, maybe slight savings over there. Finally, for the condos, 71 2 bedrooms being sold, and followed by the 1 bedrooms, which we had 22 units sold at $608,000 versus $424,000 respectively. And we have 41% sales to list for the 2 bed and 18% sales to list for the 1 bedroom, all selling for at least 3% below the listing price. So the key takeaway is that we have more buyers that are entering the market, and there are few sellers that are listing their homes. The gap between the supply and demand is also narrowing, and the buyers still have a lot of options. But the conditions are starting to become more competitive than they were earlier this year. For sellers, is less competition from other listings, but well-priced homes are still attracting stronger interest. And according to the TRREB president, after a slow start in the first quarter, we saw marked improvement in home sales in the second quarter of this year. So if you'd like to learn more about the market update in a specific neighborhood, feel free to send me a DM and we can definitely help you out there. Till then, talk to you soon.